Welcome to Cincinnati Soccer Talk, the podcast covering all things soccer in the Queen City. So get in touch, soccer fans. Email us at feedback@cincinnati-soccertalk.com. Now, here's your host, Nick Suberly.
Hey, what's happening, Cincinnati Soccer Talkers? Welcome to episode 123 of CST. Glad you're with us here on this Monday evening. FC Cincinnati draws 0-0 with Nashville SC in the first round of FC Cincinnati's newest rivalry. We'll talk about the match down in the Music City. Our own Boston Brazil, or should I say Razzle Dazzle Brazzle, was on hand to witness this match firsthand. Of course, we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about the player news that came down today. Daniel Haber no longer with FC Cincinnati. We'll let you know where he has moved on to. And then in the last segment, we're going to talk about teams that scare us in the Eastern Conference. So we want to hear from you. Get in touch with us on Twitter at Cincy Soccer Talk. You can also email us at feedback@cincinnati-soccertalk.com.
Captains.
Hey, we got an episode captain this week. Let's give it up to Scott Kaplan. Scott, thank you so much for supporting us here at CST, and thank you for wearing the armband of this episode of the podcast. For more information on how you can support the show and support our website, log on to cincinnati-soccertalk.com/support. All right, let's welcome in my cast of characters for this week. I'm going to start first and foremost with Brian Weigel. Brian, how are you, buddy?
Not bad. Just impressed with your 0-0 take there. Somebody been watching a little World Cup action?
Oh, it's always been 0-0, man. That's the proper terminology.
Exactly. You know, I think we should get a little bit more street cred for that. I'm proud of you, the way you started out the show strong, Sibs.
Thanks, buddy. How's it been?
Not bad. Been doing some nice March to Match Day shows. Haven't been on here for a couple weeks, so excited to get back on the horse and talk about what was kind of a disappointing weekend, but I guess not the end of the world, as we'll talk about here a little bit later.
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't I don't think it was the result that FC Cincinnati fans wanted, but in the end, it's a point on the road against a really tough side. So interesting. I'm looking forward to getting your thoughts on the match as a whole, and of course, also the transfer window opening up here very shortly. You're kind of our encyclopedia of all things USL and lower tier soccer, Bry. So I'm going to be, picking your brain on what we can expect.
I'm going to use a golf terminology here. I'm going to be a lost ball in high weeds when you guys ask me to talk about a guy, a midfielder from, let's just say Panama or something like that. So we'll see. Somebody asked me what my thoughts were on who we should bring in. I'm like, yeah, I think I'm going to be relying on some other people for this knowledge here soon.
Well, glad to have you back. I know it's been a while since you've been on the show, and looking forward to getting your takes, as always, kind sir.
Gracias.
We welcome back in, fresh off his trip to the Music City, Boston Razzle Dazzle Brazzle. Boston, how you been, bud?
Oh, doing great. Got my fill of pedal wagons, bachelorette parties, hanging out, country music. Tried to get in Dierks Bentley's bar, and the line was just full of ladies. Couldn't make it through. Tried to use my charm, but they saw the wedding ring. Didn't work out. But Nashville was a blast. Had fun with Mr. Brad Weigel, and he's not on tonight, but we kind of teamed up and had a lot of fun. Went out and hit the town after the game. So,
dude, he said you went to bed at 9:30.
No, I didn't. But I think we were out till about 11.
11. That's still early, Boston.
It is. But I wasn't alone, so I was handicapped a little bit.
Oh, hey. Wow! You went there. I'm gonna pause it, and we're gonna let you rewind that. And let's start over. You were with who?
I was with a lovely individual whom I'm married to.
Oh shoot!
Oh,
amazing,
Boston. Well, we're 10 minutes in, and already he's got his foot in his mouth, so that's fantastic. We wouldn't have it any other way, Boston.
My question to you, Boston, is did you at least get a free beer or something with that shirt you're wearing there, pal?
It had nothing to do with the shirt, but I did go into a bar just for a penny beer. Brad and I were walking around, and we got suckered into this bar that no one was in. It was actually a Steelers bar in Nashville.
Yeah.
And they said, "Hey, if you come in, we'll give you a couple beers for a penny." And so we did. We drank our penny beer and left.
I heard you had some good cocktails with Mr. Jeff Ruby and Mr. Jeff Birding.
Yeah, Jeff Birding and Jeff Ruby came down on the bus, the Jeff Ruby Steakhouse bus, and they had a day of themselves, I guess, because by the time they got to us, they were telling us all kinds of crazy stories. And they met us there at the steakhouse. Jeff Ruby served everybody Bailey's ice cream that they make there, some kind of a homemade recipe, and then Bailey's cocktails, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, Jeff Ruby's been active when it comes to FC Cincinnati the last couple of weeks, so good for him, and glad you had a good time down there, Boston. And more importantly, you made it back in one piece with that, thing holding you back, as you say.
I said handicap.
I would say that the term is handicap.
And then I gave you a chance to fix it, and you went back there. Anyway, all right, cool.
He's not watching.
That's a good point. Well, we're glad to have you back. Looking forward to getting your take on what went down there in Nashville, because you were there, obviously, on hand. Let's start with you then, Boston, because you were there. Give us your best and worst of the week that was for FCC.
I'd say the best was really just I think I've missed the newness of it all. You remember back when FC Cincinnati was going through that first year, and we're trying to get people out to games, and we're trying to spread this fever, this supporter fever that we have here in the city. And now that we're a little more established, it kind of we're still growing, but you know what I mean? I miss some of that newness. And I remember walking into the stadium, and we were meeting different people that were like, it was their first game. That was the game that they were coming to. They had 18,000. A good chunk of those were new fans that just coming for the Nissan. They saw the billboards or commercials or whatever. And they, it reminded me so much of that first year. And we were actually encouraging some of these Nashville families and people to come in, and we said, you know what, this is going to be cool, but it's going to be a little bit different because it's a football stadium, it's Nissan, and they don't really play here. We heard it's a lot better at first because it's more intimate, and we said, just keep coming back. This is, I told somebody, I said, this is the part I almost miss a little bit. This getting it started, being a part of something in its first year. I said, if you can get in now, like, you'll treasure these memories. That was my good.
That was your best. Okay, so what about the worst?
Oh, man. I think the worst is got to be just drawing that game. I wanted to win. I'm okay with the draw, and we'll talk about that later. But the expectation, it kind of leaves this unsettled taste in my mouth. Same thing with Pittsburgh. I want to be able to throw this trash back at these other fans. I'm active on Twitter, and so I run my mouth, and then I've got what, 0-0 draw. Now neither side can say anything to each other. We're just like, oh yeah, that happened.
Yeah, the draw was disappointing, but I think if you factor in what happened in the first half, you're actually kind of happy with the draw. So good stuff, Boston. How about you, Bri? Your best and worst?
Not much best. I'll tell you what. I guess Cicerone's performance, at least coming on and trying stuff. Kevin, the young guy out there, the guy who was kind of almost felt like it was like the last player signed coming into the season, is starting to surprise people still. Yeah, so that was probably my favorite part of the week, seeing a guy just blue collar mentality. What's more Cincinnati than that? And then worst of the week was probably getting all those messages on Slack from Boston and Brad and Trisha, and seeing how much fun they were having, and I was holding my crying baby, and yeah, my life. Sadness.
You're not going to use the H word, though. Right? I'm hoping.
Brad. Oh, no, I'm joking. I had a good weekend. Little Brian, all he wanted to do on Saturday was sing Cincinnati, Here We Go. We all have heard that before, but that was pretty cool. But no, honestly, I'm glad a lot of our supporters showed up. We had a lot of smack talk from those Nashville fans saying that we're only going to have 100 people showed up, and I'd say there had to at least be over 300, 400 maybe.
Yeah, it was a good crowd. Filled like about two sections.
Very proud of our contingent down there.
And more importantly, you got to march into the stadium, which, I mean, at this
So a
point
guy
last
who
week
looked
when
like
we did the
guy
show,
who looked like me did.
right. At this point when we were doing the show last week, we were kind of joking about the fact that they had made a big deal about the marching, but much ado about nothing. So, yeah, I think Bill was also down there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Bill was in his normal role, drumming
Bill,
away.
yeah, he was also the ticket man. So I wonder if
Yep.
anybody bought him a beer for that, or owe him beers.
Oh, yeah, I would say is probably an accurate term there. As far as my best and worst of the week, my best, man, there's not a lot from a best standpoint. I would say best would be you kind of took mine with Cicerone coming on and making somewhat of an impact. I'm really maybe my best. And this is probably a stretch, but the fact that Deckel stayed on the field, getting that early yellow card, because it could have gone really badly the other way around. He was very borderline on another play in the box that thankfully wasn't called a penalty. It wasn't a penalty, but with USL refs, you just never know. But picking up a yellow card in the 15th minute of the match. So I'm going to give it to him for staying on the pitch. And my worst, speaking of pitches, I'm going to go with the Nissan Stadium playing surface, if you want to call it that. Look, it looked bad on TV. It looked bad in the pictures that were sent to me. So I'm sure we're going to get a lot of hate mail for those Nashville folks who might be tuning into this. But it looked bad. It looked like it took FC Cincinnati the entire first half to get going on that pitch. And even, I believe there was a point in the second half where Deckel had to come off the sideline and have his studs readjusted by Teddy Kerr, who's one of the assistant trainers down there for FC Cincinnati there. He had to make an adjustment to his cleats. It seemed like in the first half, Nashville was used to being on that surface and FC Cincinnati wasn't. Boston, was that the case?
Yeah, it definitely was the case. I'm not going to throw the whole game away. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to say FC Cincinnati was only bad because the playing surface sucked. Both teams had to play on it, and Nashville gets a slight edge there because they practiced on it for a whole week. But at the end of the day, we both had to play on it, and yeah, I don't think we were ready for what it was, but it took us a little bit to get adjusted out there. But not only that, it was also Nashville's press. So
yeah, but did it look as bad as it? Obviously pictures and video probably don't do it justice. We're watching a stream at this point, but did it look as bad as it did even in just pictures in the stream?
Yeah, it looked like I think you guys had told me right before we started the show that something else had been done there, maybe like a monster truck rally or something.
Yeah, they had a monster truck rally a couple weeks before, and it was just all dirt. Yeah,
that's what it looked like. Something had been there. You know what I mean? Like kind of like it was rehabbing in a way. That's I was expecting a pristine NFL field. That's not what I got. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they're going to have some International Champions Cup friendlies coming up here in the next few weeks when some of these teams from Europe come over to play. So we'll see if that surface gets back in shape for that. But I'm not saying I agree with you. I'm not saying that that's the reason why this game ended 0-0. To me it appeared that FC Cincinnati wasn't prepared for that playing surface as much as Nashville has been. It just seemed like out of the gate, Nashville was a little bit quicker, whereas it almost felt like some of the guys for FC Cincinnati had like cinder blocks on their cleats because they weren't sure of their footing. So, in the end, a 0-0 result. What's your biggest takeaway from this match, Bri?
Well, there's a lot. I think missing Richie Ryan has to be up there right now. LaHood played very well last week. With Bone and Walker, and just it for something changed. It didn't. I don't know if it just didn't translate. They're trying to do different things. The press, of course, with Nashville, but I just think having that midfield general right now, missing him, factored heavily into this game. You saw Michael Hood sag a lot. open up a lot of space between him and Nazmi that Meloto, LaGrassa could take advantage coming up and just basically run at our defense. I think that's how a lot of, at least in the first half, a lot of things came FC Cincinnati's way. So we're missing the main guy in the middle. Can't come back soon enough.
Yeah, it was pretty evident how much we miss Richie Ryan this past week against Nashville, especially in that first half. It honestly felt like FC Cincinnati probably could have been down 2 or 3 goals going into that halftime locker room, Bri.
I think so. You had the header from Meloto. You had that was the free header from Meloto. I know they had, I'll say like 18 or 20 shots on in the game, but only like 3 were on target. So you got to give FC Cincinnati credit for, I guess, bending, not completely breaking, and conceding a lot of low percentage chances. But
they also hit the post in the first half.
Yeah, yep. They did. I think those are really maybe outside a header late from Reed. I feel like those are the chances that stuck out. And I don't want to, I'm sure we'll talk about what went wrong, but something I mentioned on Cincinnati Soccer Talk's March to Match Day podcast is, and actually Tom Gellert and Kevin McCloskey said it on the broadcast.
Oh, the broadcast I didn't get to hear?
If you were fortunate enough to
yeah.
Neighbors and their soups moved to Cincinnati, and you won't have that problem. The thing is, even though Nazmi, Koenig, and Ledesma didn't get a lot of chances, they still were able to do things with those chances when they got them in the first half. You had that failed chip from Ledesma, and then like a minute later, you had him put one over the bar. And then, of course, I think later on you had a shot from Nazmi that was blocked, but at least, in the very few chances they got, they were at least tried to generate chances or generate opportunities. And I think that's something positive to look for. I mean, again, when you get outpossessed 60-40 in the first half and fairly similar to that in the second half, you need to have your finishing percentages up high. And I think they would have had a couple more opportunities. I think this game changes, but of course we'll see what happens when they come here in a couple weeks.
We're 20 minutes into this show, Boston, and we haven't even mentioned the name of Evan Newton and the amazing save he had on that header from Meloto.
Yes, Evan Newton played a great game, and I mean, this is why we brought him in from Sacramento, is we need him in moments like this. Luckily, he wasn't called on as much as I thought he was going to be with, the new Brandon Allen addition. The Cincinnati back line, actually, I thought played a decent game as far as defense. Maybe not building out at the back on offense, but on defense, they did a decent job. Our tendency of letting players in through the middle, there was a couple of those moments, but not as much as I've seen in the past few weeks, and that's been a worrying spot for me. But Newton came up big on a couple of those, and not only that, even when the ball was off frame, because they had a lot of those, they had a lot of 20 shots, and most of them were off frame. Newton, I watched him play. His presence of mind was great. Like, if he was able to easily tell if it was going out. If it wasn't, he still made that run just in case he had to dart over, but also stayed on his feet if there was a rebound attempt. I was just overall impressed with him.
Yeah, he played a really good match on Saturday night. Only had the one blunder, and it really wasn't even a blunder. The shot from the end line that caromed off his abdomen and goes out of bounds for a corner kick, when you thought, oh man, that could have easily skirted into the net, but goes out for a corner kick instead. FC Cincinnati obviously able to manage from there. There are a couple late chances that you say to yourself, man, if they would have been able to convert those. Cicerone 1v1 with Pickens. Emery Walshman 1v1 versus Pickens that are late. I mean, we talk about Evan Newton coming up big. How about the play of Matt Pickens for Nashville, Bri?
Yeah, I mean, those saves there, the presence of mind to come out when he was called upon, especially since he really didn't have much to do in the first 60 or so minutes of play. That's good for him. There's a phrase that I hate, dominated. I hate when people say dominated in soccer games because, yeah, they might have had 20 shots. How many were outside the box? The fact that FC Cincinnati was at least able to still have the presence of mind to fight in this game after playing poorly was good. They didn't lay over and die like they might have in some other games when things aren't going their way. So mentally tough. That second half was positive. But yeah, I mean, when you have Welshman come on as a sub, you have McLaughlin come on, you have Cicerone come on. You need those guys to make a difference, to at least factor in to win. Your subs have to make a difference when you're essentially playing from behind. They did. I think that's a huge part about Nashville. Their subs really didn't do a whole ton to influence the game. If anything, their defensive sub almost cost them the goal on the Cicerone attempt. So that's a positive you got to take into this game. I was shocked we didn't see Ropapa-Mensah in this game. I thought that was a huge error on Gary Smith, and one that probably could have really exploited some defensive lapses for FC Cincinnati. But yeah, I mean, the play overall of our subs, plus Pickens staying strong, it makes me at least a little bit of a positive come out of this game.
Yeah, I mean, I knew Pickens was a good goalkeeper as a MLS Cup winner with Colorado, back with Gary Smith. But I guess it didn't factor into my head that he leads the league in clean sheets. And that's a testament to the defense in front of him. We saw, I believe it was Bourgeois, go out early in the second half with an injury. I guess he had gotten injured just before that halftime whistle, and so his early substitution, I think, probably is what affected Gary Smith from making those additional subs, Bri.
At least the one sub for sure. But I think they still brought on Jome, who was a former Minnesota United player. And you'd hope that he would come on and at least make a huge impact, and he didn't. So good for us, bad for them. We'll see.
But in the end, Boston, I mean, look, this is a point on the road. This is a point that we wouldn't have gotten a year ago on the road with the form we were in last year. But this is a different FC Cincinnati team. They continue to play really well on the road this year. And, this is a Nashville team that's a solid defensive team playing at home. They're tough to beat at home. And, I think, again, as I mentioned earlier, with the way things started off and the way things ended in the first half, I'm pretty sure if you poll FC Cincinnati fans right now, they're all saying, yeah, I'm okay with the draw. I'm okay with 1 point.
Yeah, if you ignore the game itself, and to say before the game, I would have offered you 1 point on the road against a top 5 team. I will take that point, whether it's Louisville, Nashville, Pittsburgh. I'm going to take the point on the road. It's what you need to do. Winning teams either draw or win on the road, and drawing is perfectly acceptable. So some Nashville fans, for instance, have been saying, well, it was a draw, but you guys were outplayed. You don't get any points for fans saying you're outplayed or not outplayed. It doesn't matter. Both teams scored 0 points.
We outplayed the hell out of Pittsburgh the second half of the time we played them. We still drew.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you had more possession, and to you, that's outplaying the other team. I mean, honestly, FC Cincinnati struggled to build out of the back, and so they switched to a more defensive mode. And in the second half, they tried to regroup and counter, but neither side played well enough to put a goal in the back of the net. It's 1 point. Drop the outplayed crap. Stop trying to make a win out of a tie. It's a tie.
Yeah. Now, I kind of wanted to talk about this a little bit later, but I guess it'll help us segue into a later segment. But we were saying the sky isn't falling. It's a draw on the road, which is good. But my bigger issue is why has this team consistently failed to show up in big games this season? When the pressure's on, where's that FC Cincinnati club that's supposed to have one of the best rosters out there, who's in first place? When are they going to go take over a game that matters? I kind of circled 4 games in my mind this season where the pressure was on, where we could have sent a message to the league. Those games were the first home game versus Louisville, then the second home game versus Pittsburgh, then the next home game versus Louisville, and then this game at Nashville. Of those 4 games, we came away with 2 points. First place teams, championship teams get more in those games. So what, we try to be thought-provoking here. Why can't we get up for these games?
Well, I don't know if it's a case of getting up. I think personally,
Why can't we win them? Why can't we show up? I mean, literally, we're on the back foot the first half of all 4 of these games.
Yeah. Well, I'll play the devil's advocate here. I would say we were the better team in the second half. I think we had more chances to score in the second half. I think, Matt Pickens came up big to keep that a scoreless draw. I will give you the first Louisville game at home. We were not ready. I think, we go back to what Alan Koch just said. They were still learning who they were. Okay, I'll give them that game. The second Louisville game, I was a little disappointed in that one. And I think also when we played Pittsburgh, we didn't know what Pittsburgh was. Now we know. We're midway through the year now. Pittsburgh's, and we'll talk about this a little bit later on, Pittsburgh's for real. I mean, they're a point behind FC Cincinnati in the Eastern Conference standings for a reason. I mean, Lily Ball is doing wonders there in Three Rivers. So, I don't know. I see what you're saying, Bri. I would also like to see them get up for these games, and maybe the story will change when Nashville comes to Nippert.
Well, my point is we still have another road game in Nashville.
Yeah,
a home game versus Nashville. We have to go to Pittsburgh twice, and we have to go to Louisville
and Tampa.
And Tampa. We got Tampa versus home this weekend. Of course, they're 12th place or 11th place right now, but I think they're a much better team. We have to win these games, or else we are going to sit in 3rd or 4th in this conference and have to play on the road to get to the championship.
Well, maybe that's not such a bad thing. They've been a really good road team this year.
It's unacceptable in my eyes, and it kind of will translate. I think some changes might have to be made.
Look at you bashing the first place team.
I know. Well, as I preface this whole thing with, the sky isn't falling, but we have to do. We've played all the crap teams. It's time to beat the good teams.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just slightly concerning, but we also
it's hugely concerning.
No. Here's the thing. Our whole first half of the season, we only had 4 games to circle on the calendar. I mean, like you said, you circled the 4, but there was only 4. The second half of our schedule is much harder than the first half, and we're gonna have many more ample opportunities. And our team, and this is how I would have built it. I want the easy half of the schedule in first, because we had a brand new team. We had to figure ourselves out. Alan had to coach his new strategy. We have to still develop a better way to get fight the press off, and so that's something that's still
well, okay, so we had half of a season to figure all this out, correct?
Yeah.
Because we're in the second half season. We were found out by Nashville on Saturday. We were found out in that 4-4-2 or 4-3-1-2, whatever you say. Of course, we were without Ryan, but we were found out. And this gets me nervous. I'm not trying to be a doomsday guy here. I'm just pointing out what I see. I thought it was wonderful how we changed in the second half. Coming out in that 4-3-1, I think you saw Kenny look more comfortable. You see Mike LaHood look more comfortable and play so much better. So it's gonna be very interesting to see how this team progresses, especially without Richie Ryan.
I'm not delusional. I don't think we're gonna win all the big games in the second half of the season, but I do think that there's enough big games in the second half of the season. We will win some of them. I mean, this is still a really good team. They're not gonna drop every single big game. If they do, they're not even gonna finish 4th. Because there's too many of them. They're going to finish 5th through 8th. So they're going to have to string together some wins, and I think it'll happen.
Yeah, coming up here in a little bit, we're going to talk about which teams in the Eastern Conference scare us down the stretch now that we're in the second half of the season. So we want to hear from you, of course. Email us feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. You can hit us up on Twitter as well at Cincy Soccer Talk. It's that time of the show where we give a huge thanks and shout out to our massive supporters. Let's give it up to Tim Bronsel with King's Hammer, Matt Adamczyk, Mama Subes, Brian Malone, Jamie Smed, Mike Hudson, Jonas Tom, Jack Emery, Mike Bowman, Jesse Gill, Kathleen Francis, Jesse King, and Teresa Everidge, who is watching us from the Ozarks tonight. Teresa, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to each and every one of you for supporting the show. Again, to learn more, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. All right, quickly before we move on to, I guess, our biggest talking point a little bit later on, it was the news today that Daniel Haber has moved on from FC Cincinnati and has been given he has left. He's now with Ottawa Fury FC on a free transfer. I don't know what to make of this one, because here was a guy we saw early on in the season get a lot of opportunities, and then I don't know if it was necessarily the play of Russell Cicerone that kind of pushed him down the pecking order a little bit, or what was going on. But I'll be honest, when I saw him in Florida, I thought he was going to have a real big impact on this team. I'm pretty sure Ben Knapp, our own Ben Knapp, was really high on this signing as well, thought he was going to have a major impact. And it just never really panned out, Bri.
Yeah, I think the formation change hurts, going from that winger system to where we're playing 3 center midfielders. So that hurts your time, especially when you have McLaughlin, Cicerone starting in front of you. You don't know what's going to look like when Lance Lang gets healthy. Of course, there's tons of rumors out there about Haber. I don't want to get too much into he said, she said, but he's going to go to Ottawa, who's really trying to bring in a lot of Canadian players. He was a former Canadian national team player. I see why that's an attractive move, and I'm glad that hopefully this will be a happy situation for him.
Yeah, I agree. I'm hoping that it's a situation where he's probably going to play. Is going to have a good opportunity to go up there, get some minutes.
Yeah,
he wasn't going to get him here. I mean, it was pretty clear.
And he goes in there and fills a void with Maxime Tissot, who just was found out that he's going to be out for the rest of the season. So he'll hopefully be able to step into some playing time fairly soon up there. Just hope we don't have to play him. I think we've finished playing them this season, but good luck to him. But I don't think he will be extremely missed here.
Yeah, I wish him the best as well. I think that we have a squad built of some big time starters, and getting into that forward area is difficult. And it was going to be a player off the bench that gets some time is going to be the one that stepped up, and that was Russell Cicerone. So I do wish Haber the best. I actually think he's going to do pretty well in Ottawa. I think he's the type of player that does well in the limelight, and here with Ledesma and Koenig and Albo Adawi, you're not going to be that guy. You can be in Ottawa. There's a big hole to fill up there. They need a star. Their fans are begging for one. So I do wish him the best.
And in the end, at least we got one thing out of this with Daniel Haber coming to Cincinnati, and Bill Wolf now knows where Cyprus is. It's not part of Greece. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to our visit in IMG, our blooper reel. Bill, we kid because we care. But, no, we wish Daniel nothing but the best there up at Ottawa. We're super thankful for him spending some few minutes with us down in Florida to get to know him a little bit better. And you're right. I hope he does well up in Canada.
My question is Subes, does this free up a chair in the locker room for somebody?
Yeah, you're kind of, like I said, you're kind of our go-to guy when it comes to transfer window. The FIFA U.S. transfer window opens up, I believe, tomorrow, correct?
Yeah, on Tuesday, runs through August the 8th. So I was talking about this with Brad today, that if I'm Jeff Birding, I tell Luke Sassano that you don't spend any time looking at any USL players for the rest of the season, because honestly, let's be real, we all want to win USL, but we need to focus on MLS. We have a short build up here, so I really hope it's somebody that we can bring in that might be for our MLS club. I think there's been a lot of talk out there with being aggressive, so I'd love to see another forward come in, maybe a target guy that could really fit into our system a little bit better. I think the world of Danny, but I think we could have a better fit. But is the money going to be there? Are we going to spend the money the right way to bring in somebody that is going to be an impactful player? I think that's the only way you bring in somebody now. You can't bring in a bench guy.
So are you thinking of them signing essentially a designated player that could play this year?
I think you can bring in. It doesn't have to be a designated player. I think,
but you're hoping that he could be here next year, is what I mean.
Well, I think whoever you bring in either needs to be somebody that you can bring in right now to start, or will be somebody that will transition into Major League Soccer, can get involved in the culture of the club over the next 3-4 months of the season.
Well, not only that, but here's my thought pattern, and I'm on board with your target forward idea. By the way, I just don't know if it's the right off the bat starter. I actually think we need a guy other than Kuna, because sometimes he needs a rest, but we also need an impact guy to come in. I like Welshman. He's just not doing the job 100% of the time for me. You know what I mean? Like, we need to put a guy in that puts goals in the back of the net.
Well, look at Danny last season. He came in the last 25 minutes for Jibby in many cases and played very well. So I think he's fine in that role. You still have that rapport of Danny and Manu. So I still think they're going to be happy. I don't expect Danny to become a problem player in the locker room. So I think there's very few positions that we could just bring in somebody like this. And I really would hope that would be the one, because I just think that's just the one element we don't have, is that guy that can just man up and beat somebody to a ball in the box.
Yeah, well, here's my idea where I was going. I think that FC Cincinnati should use this transfer window to bring in one international, because we have the spot. So you might as well bring in one that you want to take to MLS, but you just kind of want to give them a small trial period first. So probably an MLS level guy, but instead of trying him out in the preseason next year, let's go ahead and give the guy a run out now. I'm not saying DP level, but I'm talking 500, 600,000, definitely a record USL.
So DP level.
But I do think we should go out and make a couple record USL transfers. I mean, this is the time to be building the roster for next year, and we have the ability to put these guys on the field now. And it's like, think about it as a free pass. We get to see what they're made of. If they can't cut it against Tampa Bay and Louisville, they're not going to cut it in MLS. So let's go ahead and run them out.
And honestly, sorry, Subs, to me, it doesn't have to be like a DP level guy. I message all you guys in Slack with Bonomo, the striker with New York that's now in Tampa. Somebody even like him, 6'2", 6'3", I think that would have been a great addition for an FC Cincinnati squad. Prove your mettle before Major League Soccer, but it has to be somebody that can make a difference. It can't be, no offense, Tomi Amiobi. It can't be a guy like him that comes in and just sits on the bench. If we're going to bring somebody in, they have to be able to play right away.
We got this question. Go
like
ahead, Wilson.
We got a comment from Zach on Facebook. He said both our previous target strikers are available.
Dude, seriously, I mean, if we were really going for a championship right now, I would take Jibby back. Oh, I can't believe I said that, but yeah, I would.
Wow, I didn't think we were going there, but okay.
I'm serious.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth a try. I mean, what do you have to lose there? I'm sure he wouldn't be super expensive. No, right? I don't think that it matters at this point. We did get this question though from Mike Berryman on YouTube. It says, can FC Cincinnati issue an MLS contract during the summer transfer window that is still eligible to play on the USL team this year?
Yes, so you have to sign the contract with the league, because all the contracts are signed to the league, and then the league would in turn loan them to FC Cincinnati USL, or they could in turn loan them back to another club until the season window comes around, I believe in January or late December.
Yeah. I don't know if they'll do that, but
I think it's very possible in the next month we sign several players and either loan them somewhere or have them come in. I think that's very possible.
Yeah. You run a little bit of a risk having them come in, because there's going to be our off season, and if you loan them somewhere else, then especially in Europe, they're running a different season schedule than us, so you would keep a match fit.
Well, it's just there's been a precedence to it. Major League Soccer's done that time and time again, and they've also done with Atlanta, like Tambakis. I think Atlanta signed 4 players the year prior and loaned them to Charleston, so it's not unheard of.
We'll see, but I think we're all in agreement that there's probably something that's going to happen over the next couple of weeks. we know with the transfer window opening up and with the anticipation of building a roster for 2019 for Major League Soccer, there's going to be some news on that forefront. You can bet your bottom dollar on that. We did get this question from Eric. He says Okoli would be a double threat if they brought in Okoli and GB. Yikes.
I think Okoli could do it, but yeah, I'm just excited for everything to start coming down the pipe here. I think we're going to have a lot of fun over the next month. And, we don't want to lose sight of the USL season. These guys are killing it right now. They're in first place, but, we joke about JB and Sean. But there's going to be some surprises that we don't know. I think we need to get Sassano on this show soon to talk about everything.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we should work on that maybe for next week, Brian. What do you think?
All right, I'll send the email.
I can do it. I'm not completely helpless here. Anyway, so stay tuned, obviously, for any breaking news regarding any kind of transfers for FC Cincinnati, either to and from the club. We'll have it right here at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com.
Right as we started the show tonight, Richmond Kickers beat Penn FC, and no Tommy Heineman in the lineup again. Just a small update.
Oh, does he still play for them?
I think. It's been a while.
My knee hurts thinking about that.
Oh, smooth. All right. Let's talk about we kind of previewed it a little bit earlier on in the show. FC Cincinnati obviously leading the Eastern Conference right now. They're 1 point ahead of Pittsburgh. I believe FC Cincinnati either has a game in hand. I can't remember if they have a game in hand on Pittsburgh or Pittsburgh has a game in hand on
Pittsburgh has the extra game in hand.
Okay, so essentially they've got a chance. If they win their games, they will obviously surpass FC Cincinnati, which leads to the question in the Eastern Conference, which team scares you the most as we now enter the second half of the season? Louisville got off to such a flyer, but now they have 3 head coaches. That can't possibly go well. Tampa Bay, we thought they were going to be great. They've lost a head coach here this season. Pittsburgh gained Bob Lilly, and look what they're doing now, playing really, really good soccer. So what do we make of the Eastern Conference? What team scares you, Boston?
The team that scares me the most, honestly, is between Nashville and Louisville. Pittsburgh.
Wait, you're scared of Louisville?
Yeah.
Why?
I just can't write them off. You never can write them off. And they had 3-player coaches, and they went out and won their game on Saturday. So every time you count these guys out, they're never out. They're in 3rd place. I mean, even if they stumble a little bit, honestly, what scares me is that we finish 1st or 2nd or 3rd, and Louisville falls to 8, 7, or 6, and we have to play them first round. I mean, that's what freaks me out, honestly, more than anything. And then Nashville is a good team, and they've got a great coach, and they've got the ability to put it together. You know what I mean? They've brought in Brandon Allen, and I would not put it past them to pull an FC Cincinnati and bring in somebody before the deadline if they notice any more weaknesses. They've got plenty of money. This is a side that wants to go to Major League Soccer as well and prove themselves. Pittsburgh, not scared at all, honestly. The best. So let's just say they win that extra game in hand and they get 2 points over FC Cincinnati. They still have 10 wins with FC Cincinnati. The only difference is 2 draws, and they draw a lot, and they're going to continue to draw a lot. So I don't see them getting. I see them sacrificing wins later in the season for draws, and I just can't see him at number 1.
Gary Randolph on Facebook, Brian, says FC Cincinnati scares me the most. They don't always play like they should. Was that going to be yours?
Yes, God. Yes, that was going to be mine. I'm so PO'd right now.
There's Angry Brian.
Yes, Angry Brian's. Thanks, Gary. No, seriously. That was 100% going to be my answer because I'm worried that if things go slightly off the rails here, we drop some points here, there, unrest, how many guys are going to be here for next year? They're all going to be playing for themselves. That was my worry at the beginning of the season. It becomes my worry now. So I think we're better than every single team out there. Nashville probably scared me the most of any of the teams we've played because I felt that first game versus Louisville, I thought we had a chance. That game versus Pittsburgh, I thought we had a chance. even the second game versus Louisville, I thought there were some circumstances where we could have done better. But this game really felt like the first time I didn't really think that we had a huge answer till later in the second half. So, yeah, it's going to be on us.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, Bri, Gary has apologized. So
love you, Gary.
Now that you've yelled at it, no, I'm just kidding. I guess the team that I'm concerned about, honestly, I'm not worried about Louisville one bit. Look, they're still in the Open Cup, and they're doing this with 3 player head coaches. It's not like they've got 3 head coaches with coaching experience. This is 3 players who are coaching. There's no way that this can go well. I have my extreme doubts about this. Currently, they sit 4th in the Eastern Conference. I wouldn't be surprised if they hit a big slide and dip closer to that 8th spot. I wouldn't be shocked at all, Boston.
July 9th, the day a Cincinnati man tempted fate. I'm going to remember this.
I'm not worried. I'm really not. I'm just not. They don't have any depth. They continue to have to play in the Open Cup. It's not like these 3 guys, sat down and spent time in James O'Connor's back room learning, how to run a training session. These are guys that are players. They don't understand. Look, yes, I'm going to tempt fate, Boston. I'm not worried about Louisville. Pittsburgh, look, Lilly knows what he's doing. That guy gets results no matter where he's at. I mean, he was at Rochester for how many years, and that team was always rock solid, right? Now he comes to Pittsburgh, who was historically bad in the USL, and look what he's done there. So I'm a little worried about Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh has a coaching edge, no doubt about it, and Louisville lost their coaching edge, but it's 11 guys on the field, and this is where I think Pittsburgh is a little bit overvalued right now. Their players, Lilly's getting a lot out of them, but I just don't think they've got 11 quality guys out there. I like Kerr. Parks is just not impressive at all. Nico Brett is showing up. He's their kind of surprise up there at forward, but he has off games and he just can't put it together every single match. And it's really going to come down. Like the only way I see them winning this thing is if they have a lot of 0-0 playoff games and winning in PKs. And even then, I don't even know if I trust 5 guys on their team to kick PKs. Quality players on the field. Out of the top 4 teams, I think Pittsburgh is 4th.
All right, bro, I'm going to put it to you in a different way. Which teams in the Eastern Conference, other than FC Cincinnati, scare you?
Man. If Indianapolis figures it out, they could scare me. But we can never beat Bethlehem Steel, so this is a cop-out. But
I don't know why we cannot. Yeah. We never can beat Steel. It's crazy.
I honestly, I think just after I saw from Nashville this week, I think it would probably have to be them. But we haven't seen Pittsburgh and Louisville since the first 6-7 weeks of the season. So
I want to see Nashville on a normal playing surface. That was kind of a big game that they hyped up, right? Because it was being played at Nissan Stadium, not their typical home for where they play their games. So I think there was a little more going into that game. I want to see Nashville at Nippert and see how that game goes. I still think Nashville's good. They've got a really good coach in Gary Smith who knows what he's doing. Obviously, he's got an MLS Cup in his cupboard, so he's got some good skills there. But I don't know. I don't know. They concern me a little bit. Pittsburgh and Nashville are 2. But again, I go back to Louisville. I'm not. Are you concerned about Louisville at all, Bri?
Always.
Yeah.
But,
there we go.
But not really afraid of them right now. You never know what's going to happen with them. It's kind of what the point you said earlier. I just don't know how they can sustain it right now.
All right, here's Subs. If we go to Louisville, keep in mind we're in Louisville, hostile environment, and we lose this season, and then we go and head towards the playoffs, and they make it. Are you worried now? I mean, we lost 3 times to them in this scenario.
I put that down to something else. I put that down to a psychological edge that team has on FC Cincinnati. I don't foresee them. How do I put this? I don't foresee Louisville making a deep run in the playoffs. How about that? I see them getting in a first-round game and probably crashing out.
That's honestly my hope, because you're right. They've struggled against not top teams. They've actually played pretty well against top teams this season, but they struggle against the randoms, the Penn FCs, and you know what I mean? They
had a 3-1 lead over Penn FC a few weeks ago at home and gave up 2 late goals and drew.
Yeah, we drew against Toronto, so hey-o.
You're right, and Pittsburgh. I agree with you there. But I would be curious to see what everybody else thinks who's watching us, whether you're watching us live or if you want to email us after the fact, email us feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Tina Harris on Facebook says, not concerned about Louisville because we only play them once more. Okay. And when it comes to Louisville, I just think that they're going to play the rest of their USL slates. It's almost like those teams that win a crown, and the next year it's hard to replicate that. It's hard to come back the next year. And granted, they've got a lot of new guys in that locker room as well. Actually, you know what? No, they don't.
I was just going to say, no, not really.
No, they really don't. Other than, they have Pat McMahon.
Then they have a fullback.
Okay.
Midfielder.
They lose Mark Anthony Kay, who went obviously out to LAFC. So look, I'm not concerned about them. I'm really not. And of course, Boston, if they come back, and I have to eat my words, so be it.
I hope you're right. Trust me. I hope you're right, because I would rather, if Louisville's under O'Connor and they're operating at all cylinders, everyone's healthy.
100% agree with you.
I think they're the best team in the league. So them stumbling is honestly the best thing for FC Cincinnati. I think it's better than Pittsburgh's success. It's better than Nashville being a little bit better than we all thought they would be. Louisville stumbling is the greatest thing that can happen.
Dude, we still lost him twice this year, guys.
Yeah, I know. I agree.
You got to beat the best to be the best. So we still got to beat them down there, and I guarantee you we're going to come up against them in the playoffs.
And but that's what I'm saying. I honestly don't know if we could beat the Louisville we played earlier this year. We're not going to play that Louisville next time.
But you don't think Alan Koch can outmanage Luke Spencer? Wow, crickets. I think he can. Come on now.
We're too afraid to put our foot in our mouth, and then
wait a minute. You're never afraid of that, Boston.
Oh man, somebody's got to come back and replay this in there.
Well, I just think that when we go, I know we lost to Louisville twice, but we did it with James O'Connor there, and we did it with a team at that time. Louisville was playing really, really well. Then that was pre-U.S. Open Cup run where they beat an MLS side and beat Nashville. It's a different Louisville team than what we saw back in April and May. It is. It just is. And I know we lost to them twice, Bri. I know. I get it. Anyway, we'd love to hear from you, though. Get in touch with us, feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. I'm just trying to think here what else we need to
I think that segment told you a lot about us right there, by the way. About our team and about our hopes and dreams and everything. So don't read too much into it, but we'll see.
It should be interesting because, one of the teams we didn't mention in that segment was the Tampa Bay Rowdies. And what's going on with the Rowdies, Bri?
Well, we're going to find that out more on Wednesday when we speak to Matt from the Unused Substitutes, but they're not doing too well. This is a team who's I think a lot of people thought it was them versus FC Cincinnati. They brought in a lot of USL All-Stars. We brought in a lot of NASL All-Stars. And they're sitting in 11th place right now. 7 losses on the season, but they still somehow have a +2 goal differential on only 6 wins. So think about that. So there's a lot of firepower there when it's clicking. it works for them. So it's going to be a big match on Saturday. I think this is another one of those games where you just got to come back from Nashville, play hard, and get those 3 points. We've never beaten Tampa Bay before. We've lost to them down there 3 times. We tied them up here last year. So I think it's going to be a big deal. Of course, we're going to speak with Matt. I'm sure, going to talk about their 2 new signings in Stefano Bonomo from the New York Red Bulls, as well as Kwado Poku, who is formerly of Miami FC, formerly of NYCFC, formerly of the Russian Super League. I think Anzi Malakai or whatever that. Yeah, y'all can look that up. So, as you mentioned earlier, new manager Niall Collins. So it's going to be a lot of new things for Tampa Bay going into this game. I think the one thing you're going to see is this is a side that's really struggled to be consistent. Defensively, they've been just okay. They've conceded, but they have all that firepower up front. And I think with Collins, he's kind of gone to a 3-back system to push those guys forward to outscore teams. So this could be a shootout this weekend. There's no doubt in my mind that could absolutely happen. So it's going to be interesting to see what Matt says. Of course, one of their players had some trouble with the law this week, so they could be without another defender going into the Cincinnati match. So stay tuned. We got a lot more information for you.
So check it out, March to Match Day. Get subscribed to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode of not just this show, but the podcast that Brian puts together. He does a really good job of that, previewing the next opponent. So check it out, March to Match Day. Looking forward to getting a chance to catch back up with Matt from the Unused Substitutes podcast down in Tampa. I have to correct you, Bri. FC Cincinnati has beaten Tampa, and it was down at IMG this year. But just
in a meaningful match.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
It meant a lot to me. I was in Florida and saw it firsthand.
Hey, this is the last. If you don't count expansion teams that came in this year, this would be the only team we have yet to beat as a club. So if FC Cincinnati can get a win versus Tampa, that will officially knock out all previous expansion sides, and then we would just have to go after the Nashvilles of the world.
Oh, I see what you're saying, because I was saying we haven't beaten Nashville yet, but now I saw what you did there. Okay, yeah. Again, make sure you check it out, March to Match Day. Get subscribed on iTunes, Google. I believe Google now has a new podcast app native to the Android operating system. So make sure you get that podcast app.
Sweet.
Yep. So no excuse for you Android users. Even if you do have an Android, you can download Stitcher. We're on TuneIn. Google Play Store, we're there as well, and even Spotify. So you can't miss a single episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk.
Yeah, just make sure to stay tuned and all that stuff to get all the most recent things. We will do one show for Tampa. We will not be doing a show for Charlotte. It's my daughter's first birthday, so we're having a party on Sunday, and that's when I normally do the midweek shows. So we will not be doing that. But my man Boston's gonna go talk with the Talkin' Jacks podcast, so you can go check that out if you're interested.
We'll throw up the link so you guys can. And if you're really missing March to Match Day, you can go check out our
at least
version,
something.
The away version of March to Match Day.
There you go. With the goose.
So make sure you, again, get subscribed so you don't miss a single episode. Don't forget, coming up on August 25th, it's the 3rd annual Cincinnati Soccer Talk Foot Golf Classic, presented by Joseph Auto Group and benefiting Sports Games for Kids. To get registered, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/footgolf. We are now accepting registrations for those golfers who can't quite find a foursome to get together. So if you're by yourself and you want to come out and play foot golf, you can now register as a single golfer. It's $45 over at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/footgolf. Brad does a really good job of putting that event together each and every year. So, again, make sure you come out. And it's for a great cause. Tom Grabo, the Cincy super fan, does a really great thing with Sports Games for Kids. So, again, come out August 25th at Woodland Golf Course. Your foursome is $180. And if you're by yourself, it is $45. All right, it's about time we begin to wrap things up. I'll start with Boston Razzle Dazzle Brazzle. Boston, you got any final thoughts as we head out of here on episode 123?
Can we tag team this one, Boston? I think I know what you're going to say.
I'm looking at the standings of another team. Is that where
Yes.
you're going? All right. Yes, I wanted to bring up Cincinnati Dutch Lions are currently in third with a couple games left, and they have a game in hand over the team that is in second, Lansing United. They just beat that team, so that gave them a big point swing towards the top of the table. If they can close out, they have a game Friday, and they have a makeup game on Monday, I believe.
There you go. Tuesday, Friday, Monday.
Okay, so yes.
They're away in West Virginia tomorrow.
Yes, you're right. You're right. They're away at West Virginia tomorrow, especially if that's a win. That's a huge win. We're talking Friday the 13th and Monday the 16th would be 2 home games, and they are big. I mean, they are
Huge.
mega big. And fans need to come out because we're talking a chance at the playoffs here for PDL. We're talking Open Cup. And keep in mind, next year, FC Cincinnati is going to be in Major League Soccer. You guys are going to have nothing to do while all these lower division teams are playing in the Open Cup. And if we can get a Cincinnati team in the Open Cup, I mean, come on.
A second team in the Open Cup.
That's right. Well, something in the early rounds, and we can just go out and support the crap out of these guys.
I mean,
show up. I mean,
dude, Paul Nicholson has done tremendous things for this club. This last half of the season. I mean, I think they dropped the first couple games. Games are going to want back. I think they drew versus Derby, which is unfortunate. But, I mean, they have a chance, guys. I mean, they have a huge, huge chance there to make history, to keep going in the tournament. Of course, they might have to come up against Des Moines, which is a powerhouse unto themselves. But, yeah, I mean, if you guys can go out there, I don't ever want to say skip a Cincinnati Soccer Talk show. But if there's a chance on Monday to get to the playoffs with a win, skip the Cincinnati Soccer Talk show. Or hell, let's go do the Cincinnati Soccer Talk show at the game.
Well, I'll be there. I work for him. So
there you go. So let's do it. You're going to be there. Let's get it going, man.
You're talking about this upcoming Monday, Brian?
Yeah, let's do it.
So we can scratch Luke Sassano?
Well, we'll see. Hey, we'll do a special with Luke Sassano. How about that? So, but no, I'm serious, guys. Get out there, support the club. Huge rivalry match. What are they calling the footlong Subway Derby on Friday versus Dayton?
$5 footlong.
$5 footlong Jesus Derby.
Yeah, there you go.
Can you explain why they're calling it that?
There's some sort of was it in Monroe by the shopping? There's that Jesus.
Everybody knows we used to have touchdown Jesus, and lightning struck him, and down he went up in flames, and so
he got smote.
Yeah, they built a new Jesus, and this one's holding a $5 footlong. That's the Derby name.
Seriously, though,
that's a great Derby name. I love it. Whoever came up with that, that's
super
so
mega ultras SG whatever squared. But yes, seriously, get out there if you can this week. Huge games. Because I mean, Lansing will probably take 3 points from Derby, and then they have to play Dayton. So on Sunday. So I mean, there's a realistic chance here that if we at least take 6 points from these 3 games, that they make playoffs. So let's go out, support them. Let's sell out NKU Soccer Stadium.
That's a good one. Can you give us that schedule again one more time so folks can? Do we know the kickoff times, Boston? I know you're the employer there, or the employee, I should say.
So the game Friday is 7 p.m. And so after work, basically what I do is I just head down to the stadium, and then the game on Monday is also at 7 p.m. And that's a makeup game due to a lightning delay. So that one should have been played by now, and maybe a blessing in disguise it wasn't. Reminds me of that Miami Open Cup game last year.
All right. So check out the Dutch Lions. It's going to be a good time here for them. They continue to play well. So go check them out. My final thought this week, look, if you haven't had a chance to go, I'm just going to say this. I've never seen a more incredible finish to a USL game than I saw between North Carolina FC and the Charleston Battery on Saturday night. In the 97th minute, there was just a tremendous finish. If you haven't had a chance, you've got to go and watch the ending to that match. I'll provide a link to the highlights from YouTube in the show notes, but it was just it was just an incredible finish to the game. The game ended. I'm not even going to spoil it for you because it was such a great ending, and I have to give a hat tip to the announcers who called the ending. It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. So again, I'll put the link to those highlights in the show notes. What an ending there in North Carolina. It's worth your time. It only takes a minute to watch, but you will get an absolute kick out of the ending of that match. Again, thank you to everybody who's tuned in live here on Facebook, YouTube, and now on Periscope. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to rate and review the show on iTunes. CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/iTunes is where you can do that. And again, if you want to help support the show, like my man, Mr. Kaplan, did this week, wearing the armband for this episode. Scott, thank you so much for your support. Log on to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. All right, that's going to do it for episode 123. My thanks to Boston Razzle Dazzle Brazzle and Brian Weigel. I'm Subs, reminding you to watch your tackles, and we will see you all next week